What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven here with your afternoon snap, and we just had a new patch bringing with it a bunch of information about future content in Marvel Snap. I'm not going to talk about the stuff that just changed in the patch, which is all interesting stuff too. What I want to do is take a look at the future of Marvel Snap, which is not content that I typically focus on, but it often means that I'm reacting to cards so much later in the game than everyone else, and by the time I'm talking about them, most people have already seen them from a few other content creators. So I want to start to take a look at the November season, which is going to be a Spider-Verse themed season with Spider-Punk as the new season pass card. And I should say, I am basically going to, oh, that was a bad idea. We're doing this live here. And I am basically going to be reacting to all of these cards that I'm looking at live for the first time. I knew that Spider-Punk was the season pass card, but I did not even know that it was a 3-2 yet, or what it does at all. About to read it for the first time now. Spider-Punk says, yeah, don't want to mess that one up. Spider-Punk says you can move this once. When this moves to a location, steal 2 power from the highest enemy card there. So this is a 3/6, and it has a little bit of synergy with Affliction and a little bit of synergy with Move. Now, how in the market are you for a 3/6? Not incredibly so. Obviously, it would have some synergies with Hydra Stomper and Batroc the Leaper and Craven. Those are all top of mind after a deck with all of those cards just won the 3rd Golden Gauntlet World Championship Series qualifier. But just a 3/6, not incredibly useful. I'm curious if there's going to be with a bunch of spiders, bound to be some more move synergy, right? I wonder if we'll get any more Affliction synergy. I'm not sure. Now, we can also see one Series 5 card here with Zombie Scarlet Witch. That's this season pass card. And then 2 Series 5 cards. So between Man Spider and the Superior Spider-Man, one of those will be the super premium season pass card that you can purchase for $10 on top of the season pass, and then also open up in Spotlight packs. And then the other one will just be the weekly released, available for Spotlight packs or tokens. So I'm not sure which of these is which. I'm just going to take a look at both of them. A 3/4 Superior Spider-Man says at the start of each turn. So another start of turn ability. I wonder if we'll see a keyword on start of turn eventually, and a way to repeat start of turn effects. At the start of each turn, you get +1 energy if you have any cards with increased power in play anywhere. Not even at this location. No synergy with Move. Just synergy with random other pumps. That's interesting. Doesn't immediately synergize with any other spider cards we've seen. Obviously has some synergies with locations. Now, the most straightforward, I guess it is Agony, a spider card. Is that like a villain? I'm not sure what Agony is. I mean, it seems like it might be some type of symbiote Spider-Man sort of thing, Spider-Man villain, but I think that the best way to make this work, again, these are day 1 reactions, day -60 reactions, or -30 in the case of these November cards. The best synergy with this is going to be to play a pumping card on turn 1 or turn 2, be that Forge or Nico Minoru, or maybe Surge, but not really even Surge. I do feel like Agony and Forge are going to be the best with this if you want to ensure that on turn 4. Sorry about that, my dog was barking, so brief interruption, but what I was getting at, I believe, is that in order to get the most value out of this card, you're going to want to have pumped something up by the start of turn 4. And this gives you +1 energy, not +1 max energy. It's nothing super crazy. It's just basically like a different take on Electro that has a different mini game that you're playing with. Rather than only being able to play one card, you have to pump something up to get Superior Spider-Man to start working. So I think that Forge and Agony make the most sense. There's probably some other good ones. And the other thing that is coming to mind is that another like similar strategy where you want to ramp and pump. Okay, well maybe the Galacti cards, we haven't really seen how those might work yet. Those also want ramp and pump. What I was going to say though is the Fallen One, I believe is the name of the 5/5 that sets your max energy to the Fallen One's power. That's also a deck or a card at least that wants you to play pumps and also is trying to do rampy things. So that could definitely be an angle. This doesn't seem like the biggest payoff necessarily. I will say it doesn't just immediately go into an existing deck, which is always a good thing, right? And I could probably say the same thing about Spider-Punk as well, though Spider-Punk feels like it doesn't go into an existing deck for power level reasons. The Superior Spider-Man seems like it's asking you to do a new deck building challenge and a new little puzzle to figure out exactly how Superior Spider-Man wants to work. The trick with Superior Spider-Man becomes, and I think this is potentially true of the Fallen One as well, maybe again Zombie Galacti will put all of these things together in a way where it makes sense to play them, but the point is, if you are playing a bunch of ramp cards, you don't necessarily want to be playing a bunch of small cards like Forge and Agony. You want to make sure that you're playing enough payoffs for all of your big ramp, and that would be the main sort of tension in a Superior Spider-Man deck. But I do think that it is something that could potentially be overcome when you have enough effects that care about this, and then you're probably looking to ramp into some type of Black Panther Arnim Zola with Symbiote Spider-Man sort of strategy. Another effect that sort of works with Superior Spider-Man, though not really, because at that point you're playing Symbiote on turn 4, activating it on turn 5. That will at least give you enough energy on turn 6 to play Zombie Galacti, but I mean, then you haven't done anything else up until that point in the game. So I'm not sure if that is the exact strategy that you'd want to go for with this, but I'm definitely higher on Superior Spider-Man. I would say that that card is superior to Spider-Punk. Man Spider is another Series 5 card, and again, no clue which of these is coming out. I mean, it's a very weird distinction, right? But one of them you can purchase for $10 cash. The other one you can't, is basically the distinction here. Man Spider has an on reveal, and it is a 5/1 that says merge the last card you played into this. When this merges, double its power. Okay. That's kind of curious. So this is a very silly, I don't know why my mind went here immediately, but if you play this into a rescue, then because that's like one of the bigger cards that you can play on turn 4, though. I guess that's not totally fair. There's like, Coal Obsidian and all of those 4/10s that are just a lot easier to play into. But this is interesting if you are already sort of doing on reveal-y things, though I'm not sure that's exactly what you're doing. I do think that Man Spider is specifically worded when this merges, double its power, so that it will not double and double on like a Wong or something after a Black Panther is played. I think that you're only doubling a Black Panther up to 22 in this case. Well, that's without Wong. If you had a Wong already, then the Black Panther's at 20. This would make it up to 21 and then double it up to 42, is I believe how the math would work. Not super sure. This is a Mr. Negative card. That is actually worth noting. That's something that you have to think about anytime you've got a card with a high amount of energy and a low amount of power, is that you could flip those. And you could make this a 1/5, which is effectively like a 1/10, and starts to feel reasonably like an Iron Man impression. Of course, not going to be able to grab this with Jane Foster, but Man Spider seems like it could be an interesting angle for decks like that, especially if you're slinging your cards around with Arnim Zola after you have made a big Man Spider consumed card. Web Sling is coming to Series 4 at the start of next season, and I should say, I have not said this yet already, anything I'm showcasing can change, both in terms of like all of the numbers on these cards and what I'm even talking about. The cards could totally change before we actually see them implemented into Marvel Snap, but it's interesting to talk about them here regardless. Websling says, next turn, you can move one of your cards away from here. Okay, this is actually a pretty interesting skill, and I think, okay, no, we're getting the Hunger this season, but the Hunger also kind of feels like a spell because it's mimicking Zombie Scarlet Witch, who is a sorceress or witch, I guess, right? But Websling, I would say, is the first skill we are getting to Marvel Snap, correct me if I'm wrong, that isn't like magic based. This is just, tech or web, depending on which version of Spider-Man this is. So you play it on reveal. Next turn, you can move one of your cards away from this location. Also, this is actually pretty important to note that they did add some new kind of like, I guess I'll just say like smart movement tracking in this current patch that says, for instance, this is the example that they used, I believe. If you move a Nightcrawler out of a Madam Web's location, that will use the Madam Web's move, and it will not use the Nightcrawler's "you can only move this once." So, similarly with Web Sling, you could use that to move Spider-Punk, and I am just realizing now the synergy with Spider-Punk. You can move this once. Sure, that's an ability. When you move this Steel 2 power from the highest power enemy card there, that is a whole new sentence. You can web sling your Spider-Punk to make it Steel 2 power. You can also move it with any number of other move effects that also exist in the game. Apologies that it took me until this point in the video to realize that. Now, how good is that really? It's worse than Old Vulture. Old Vulture was a 3/3 that when it moved got +6 power. This is a 3/2 that when it moves gets basically 4 power, stealing 2. That's a significant downgrade. Old Vulture obviously was good. This is not Human Torch. This is not even Old Vulture. So, interesting baseline to compare it to those two cards. It may still be playable, being worse than those two cards, but it is worse than those two cards. So, yeah, that is something that Spider-Punk will have to contend with. We are also getting 2 cards on November 11th, and I don't know exactly why this is. I don't know if Chameleon is releasing as part of an event, or if they are planning on doing something new next season where they release Series 4 cards slowly throughout the season, or all of this is wrong and don't pay any attention to it. But we are going to pay attention to our Series 5 card here first, Ezekiel Sims, which is a familiar sounding name. I don't recognize it necessarily, but I feel like this is a character that we've been introduced to in one of the mainline Sony Spider-Man movies, right? I'm not sure. After you play a card with higher power here, give this +2 power and move this to another location. So it's like a silk that actually has a reward built into it, and also has a little bit of a game that you have to play. You can't just play Batroc the Leaper and have Ezekiel jump out of the location and grow both of your cards, gotta work a little bit harder for it. That's interesting. I do think, another Silk just moving around is good for a deck like this. You'd probably play it in conjunction with Silk even, potentially. So what are the interesting breakpoints? 2 power, you have to play a card there with 3 or more power. What is going to work? What isn't going to work? Not going to work. Sam Wilson, Mercury is going to work. Craven, but also Craven is not going to work because the card is going to move away from Craven's location rather than move into Craven's location. So your mileage may vary on that. Hulkbuster, probably not going to work, though. Hydra Stomper. Hydra Stomper, another piece of equipment or something. I imagine Hydra Stomper's tech and not a person, right? Hydra Stomper, maybe there's somebody in there. I don't know. Probably, actually. Yeah, there's probably like a dedicated Hydra Stomper pilot, right? But Hydra Stomper might move Ezekiel Sims, and especially as you move into later in the game. But if you're playing turn 2 Sims, turn 3 Hydra Stomper, that doesn't work. So there's some interesting numbers to consider with all of that. And then after Ezekiel has moved once, then you can try to move it again. You have to be the one to play the card there. So that could be a benefit, probably a hindrance because you want this card to move. And interestingly, this card does not have 2 distinct abilities like Spider-Punk. This card says that you have to play you can't just move this with, Iron Fist and still get the +2 power on it. You have to move it by playing a higher power card at that location, and then it will get +2 power and skedaddle. One other thing that I was considering is that Miles Morales will be able to pump up a 2 power Ezekiel Sims, and a 4 power Ezekiel Sims, right? But not a 6 power Ezekiel Sims. And the deck is not really playing 7 power cards other than specifically Hydra Stomper. There might be some weird way that you could get this to work with like a Human Torch if the Human Torch's power is checked after it moves a few times with some other abilities. Blink has some high power. Human Tribunal or Living Tribunal has some high power. This certainly isn't like trying to make its way into the Human Torch deck specifically. It's more trying to go into the Hydra Stomper deck. And this is all like really interesting to look at these cards when a Hydra Stomper deck has just won. This is the deck that just won the 3rd Golden Gauntlet World Championship Series qualifier. That is why I have mentioned Hydra Stomper multiple times already throughout this video. But with this deck just winning, it's definitely top of mind, and you have to think with a lot of these cards, not all of them, not like Spider-Punk, but with Ezekiel Sims, which card from this list are you cutting to make room for Ezekiel? And I don't think that that's a crazy question to ask. I don't think that Ezekiel Sims is necessarily out, but you can also take a look at a deck like this and directly try to figure out the puzzle that is Ezekiel Sims. Are you using Cannonball and Miles Morales and Juggernaut to make Ezekiel into a 6 power card, and then potentially, occasionally, using a Cosmic Ghost Rider to bring Ezekiel Sims up to 8 power? It's cool that we can look at this top level deck list and try to slot this future card in there. Obviously, Marvel Snap's gonna look different a month from now, so who knows exactly what we'll be trying to play in a deck like this. And I'm also really curious, I just thought of this because we have the dates for when these things arrive. When is the Golden Gauntlet World Championship? Is it November 8th? I'm going to check that real quick. Yeah, okay. Golden Gauntlet Worlds is on November 8th, which means these cards will be part of the metagame, but Ezekiel Sims and Chameleon and anything else throughout the rest of this video will not be. So I don't really have to care about those cards as much for that particular event, but I will still take a look at the rest of the cards. Moving on, we have Chameleon, a 3/3, potentially New type of morph card. Let's see. On reveal, copy the text of another card here you revealed this turn. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. So, there's two main ways to utilize this. Maybe more. Wow, that's going to take a second to unpack, because there's certainly a lot you could do with that. You could throw down 2 Mystiques off of an Iron Man that you played on turn 5. You could double Iron Man a different location. I think the baseline, like the first thing that your head has to go to is it's a 3-cost card. You can play it alongside another 3-cost card, and so Silver Surfer makes a lot of sense. There are a lot more combo decks recently, and I'm trying to think of like, what implications does that have? Could you play this with an Invisible Woman on the final turn and then activate Jocasta? I mean, kind of. I don't think that that's super exciting to combo this with activate cards, unless of course you're getting a turn 7 that game and then have a chance to activate those cards again. Then I could see playing this plus Jocasta on turn 6, and then on turn 7 activating both of those Jocastas. That's potentially interesting. The other thing that I thought of was, okay, if you want to play this and you want to play something else that turn, and you also want to do something else, then could this potentially be a card that makes use of Serra's energy cheat, and you could play 3 3-cost cards on the final turn, potentially in a Silver Surfer deck or potentially elsewhere. I do feel like using this alongside Silver Surfer makes the most sense. We're getting to a point where you could have a Silver Surfer first steps in a location already, and then on the final turn play a Silver Surfer and a Chameleon, and now you are getting 3 Silver Surfer triggers on the final turn, which is definitely interesting. Is that good? It doesn't seem horrible. And if a Silver Surfer deck is in the market for more Silver Surfers, it's kind of win more, right? But a lot of the cards in the deck are built around winning more. Like, Brood is good when you have Silver Surfer. Sebastian Shaw and Captain Carter are good when you have Silver Surfer. So you're playing a bunch of cards that are already good when you have Silver Surfer. Why not play another one and go even bigger? That's not the craziest idea in Marvel Snap, to play like win more effects, because your opponent is also playing win more effects, and you need to like manage that with the snap and retreat mechanic. Chameleon could be cool. He's holding up a bunch of masks. We can think about the implications of Chameleon copying Spider-Man. Not really. I think that might be a Cyclops, or no, that's an Electro. I also see a Cap, a Green Goblin. That seems terrible. Most of those other things, Debris, no, but that would be on the final turn. I mean, that is a deck that also plays Magic, so maybe could be another Clog card. I am always a fan of cards that say copy. Cards that say double and cards that say copy, I'm always buying them. So, and we were just talking about this a little bit in preparation for Snapprentice, which I am going to start. I believe that starts this weekend. So this would definitely be a card that I would want to pick up for that. And I mean, hopefully by the time Chameleon releases, I am still involved with the Snapprentice and can use Chameleon to keep on copying stuff. Yeah, seems like a neat one. On November 18th, we have Spider-Man Noir, which says if your other cards in play cost exactly 8 total. Oh, cool little mini game. Okay, so in order for your other cards in play to cost exactly 8 total, you're not playing this card on turn 4. That would mean 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. So not quite. You're probably looking to play this then on turn 5, which means 4 plus 3 plus 1. I like that there's a little bit of a mystery, a little bit of a deck building puzzle. What's the payoff? I didn't even get to that part. I just got excited by the mystery of it all. So what do you get from doing so? Add the top card of your deck here. Set its power to 8. Okay. So it's like a Jubilee that makes that card have 8 power. What's the benefit of that, necessarily? Well, I guess the benefit is you've just played a 4/12. It's interesting because I'm just thinking, like, Jubilee, you wind up pairing that with cards that already have more than 8 power, right? You're getting like an Odin at worst, though this does not work with Odin. That's worth noting. You will never really be able to re-trigger this other than with Symbiote Spider-Man. Symbiote Spider-Man, this could work out really interestingly with, because you could play a 1, a 3, a 4, which is Symbiote Spider-Man, play Spider-Man Noir. If Spider-Man Noir gets exactly a 4, then you activate Symbiote Spider-Man. If it 50-50s onto Spider-Man Noir again, then it could grab another card from your deck and make that also have 8 power, because the Symbiote Spider-Man will look at the total power of your other cards, which is now the 1, the 3, and the new 4, but not Symbiote Spider-Man again. That's a really interesting sort of puzzle to contend with, and I think that makes it fun. The payoff then is that you are getting plus 8 power, which could be anything. It could even be a Black Panther. It could be something that the 8 power on it is going to mean more than that. It could be a Lasher. It could be a Scarlet Spider. There's a few different cards that appreciate having extra power. And so that 8 power could be even more, but even if it's just 8 power, even if this is just a 4/12, like, there's still good implications of that. You put it on a Jeff, for instance. I'm trying to think of what other cards have flexible costs in a way that could be beneficial with this. The main one is Agony. To bring that card up again, Agony, you could play it on turn 1, and then if it turns out you don't need the 1 energy. Wait. Cards in play cost. Yes, okay. Making sure I'm not reading this wrong. But basically, you have a 1, which is Agony, you have a 3, and then you have a 4, and then you play Spider-Man Noir. That would be 8 and satisfy his ability. But if you wanted to play another 1-cost card on turn 5 alongside Spider-Man Noir, you could, because you could play that 1-cost card into Agony. Agony would then attach to the card, no longer appearing to be on the board, thus no longer contributing to Spider-Man Noir. Though there's another easy way to do this too. You could just flip over the Spider-Man Noir first, okay? That's a fairly easy solution as well. But I was also just thinking, like, okay, what else is good to have an additional 8 power on? Or not an additional 8 power on, but just flat 8 power. And, like, being able to move around a Jeff, being able to cheat out anything. Oh gosh. Oh, Spider-Man Noir. Speaking of merge, Man Spider comes and attaches to Spider-Man Noir, and you merge the last card you played into this. So I don't know if then, like, this card's ability goes away. I'm just trying to think about weird. We have a lot of merge effects. You can get really into the weeds in terms of, like, how the cards are going to look after the fact, and you're caring about different values. You're caring about the on reveal for Symbiote Spider-Man. You're caring about the power, or the cost rather, for Spider-Man Noir. But something like that could come out attached to this. Set its power to 8. So you probably set its power to 8, and then you activate the on reveal of this, which that part is good, right? Set this power to 8, it attaches 12, doubles up to 24. I have to imagine they're going to make something like that work if they're coming out in the same season. Definitely some outstanding questions, right? But Definitely cool as well. We do see Chameleon likely coming from a limited time event alongside Deafening Chord, another skill here from Spider-Punk. Afflict an enemy character here that costs 3 or less with -1 power and remove its text. Whoa. Whoa. This is just a 1-cost Red Guardian. Whoa. Now, you really have to decide how much you want to commit to an ability like this. Red Guardian, fairly flexible in that it's like a 3/4 even when it does nothing. This is a 1/1 when it does nothing, but when it does something, it is doing that thing for super, super cheap. Wow, skills are really coming into Marvel Snap this season with just like really, really tiny effects, but the fact that they are tiny effects and they don't have any lasting impact, that's not true. They have lasting impact on the board, but just they get to cost 1. 1 is such a free energy cost to be able to weave in, and oftentimes your games in Marvel Snap, you are either limited on your space on the board or you are limited by the amount of energy that you can spend. You're typically never limited by the amount of cards that you have in hand. Like, you rarely run out of cards in hand at the end of a game of Marvel Snap. It does happen occasionally, but for the most part, you're running out of energy. And the fact that this is so cheap means that you can weave it in on a flexible pace on the curve, and also it's not going to take up room on your board. It will immediately affect your opponent's board, taking up some room on their side, but kind of free in the fact that it is a skill. I like Deafening Chord. There's a lot of ways to just like play this card on turn 4, even in like a Silver Surfer deck. You play this and shrink and disable the card that they played on turn 3, and then you play another 3-cost card. There's a lot of good cards with effects with cost 3 or less. I think Deafening Chord could certainly find a home. Next up, we have Hydro Man, also apparently from a limited time event. I will mention that Dumb Duggan appearing here. I believe this is a card that we never actually got in Marvel Snap. I don't think that we're getting it on November 23rd as well. I imagine this is just like a leftover artifact in the code from a card that we never got from like either a canceled game mode or some things that got moved around and they shelved that. But I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we're getting Dum Duggan, but I'm just bringing that up to say, like, we might not get Hydro Man here. He looks kind of out of place, but I don't know. Maybe it's a Spider-Man villain. I've got no clue what we're looking at. Hydro Man is a 5/8 with on reveal, set the cost of each deck's top card to 1. Huh. Okay. Well, the biggest benefit of that is that you can build your deck to better take advantage of it by playing higher cost cards than your opponent. That's fairly straightforward. One thing that could also be pretty good is like playing this in Arishem, and then you get to play this card on turn 4. On turn 5, you play a 6-cost card, and then on turn 6, you could potentially play 2 6-cost cards. A card that costs 6, and then whatever Hydro Man shrunk down to be a 1-cost card. You're not going to necessarily hit a 6-cost card super often in an Arishem deck. Oh, here's another use to get 7 energy on turn 6. Turn 3, Superior Spider-Man. Turn 4, Hydro Man. Turn 5, 6-cost card. Turn 6, again, a 6-cost card plus a 1-cost 6-cost card from Hydro Man. A little bit random in terms of the output, but we found that ramp decks do want a card like this. This card feels fairly similar to me to Blink. It is a card that, I mean, it seems similar because it's another 5/8, right? But I think that comparison is pretty fair because ramp decks want Blink to be a 5/8. They want Blink to be an expensive card. Like, Lockjaw is not as good in ramp decks because it's not as good to ramp into. So ramping into cards that beget more ramp, Blink, Odin, are pretty good. And Hydro Man could serve a similar function in sort of these ramp decks. I mean, the Odin and Blink stuff is like hella stuff, but that's not crazy. You could also consider Spider-Man Noir in a sort of hella deck, which hella decks are already doing weird deck building puzzles, be it just because of Hella's ability to discard cards of different costs, or Blink and Jubilee doing weird things with costs. So hella decks are not totally a stranger to the puzzles that Spider-Man Noir represents, and I feel like Hydro Man could potentially operate on similar footing, trying to find its way into those decks. The reason I bring up Spider-Man Noir again, by the way, is just any effect that, because it doesn't like copy the top card of your deck, it adds the top card of your deck onto your location, which is thinning, and it's card draw. So it is actually a really powerful effect, and it is something that hella decks might consider and might even consider building around. You play Gore instead of the Infinite. You play, I don't know, you play Odin and it stays at 8 power. You play Jubilee, and then it's an 8 power Jubilee that grabs another card. Some of those things could be pretty strong, and yeah, the 5/1 potentially. There's some other cool things that those can do. Does this goes on to the last card that you played. Merge the last card you played onto this. So if a Hella brings this back, I'm not sure if this would attach to the Hella or like your Blink or something, but Hella decks are also in the market for effects that, like, you play your Blink and you fill up a little. Well, typically it happens with Jubilee. Jubilee gets played and it fills a location, and then you blink the Jubilee, so your opponent thought that they were beating you in that location, but then suddenly you're able to add more power to a location that was already full. Hydro Man, not doing that. I'm getting distracted. But could Hydro Man be good? It could be. There's an obvious overlap with Hydro Man and Wave that I like, just the theme of water representing energy somehow in Marvel Snap, but also somehow representing, like, leaving your cards alone at locations with Atlantis and all of the Atlantic cards. Okay, the Prowler, I did know that we were getting this season. It is a big card. This always comes up on, like, the list of, I think, one of the biggest cards, one of the biggest characters that is not yet currently in Marvel Snap. So we have the Prowler here. Also, I mean, I might just be learning this right now. This would be, I mean, is the new Spider-Verse movie coming out in November? That would be awesome. I've loved all of those movies. And yeah, now I'm excited to watch the new Spider-Verse. But the Prowler here is a 3/4 with on reveal, add 2 Thief's Tools to your hand. No clue what that means. Set their costs to 0 if a card moved last turn. Is this going to be like Kate Bishop arrows and... I don't know if Thief's Tools are all different or all the same every time, but set their cost to 0 if a card moved last turn, which means you're not looking to play the Prowler on the final turn. Certainly, it's a creation card. If these Thief's Tools are not skills, it's another Vicky Hand card. Oof. Okay, I wonder if we click on the Prowler here, can we see what these Thief's Tools are? Oh, there's a whole bunch of them. There are 3 different tokens, and okay, we can see what they do. Thank you, SnapFan. So Remote Mind says on reveal, and these are all skills. Okay, so not going to be Vicky Hand synergies, will be Black Swan synergies, will be synergies with that Nicholas Scratch, potentially. Probably not, but Remote Mind says on reveal, afflict the 2 highest power enemy cards here with -2 power. It's a 1/4 or potentially a 0/4. I forgot that these could be free if you moved a card last turn. On reveal, give your highest power card +2 power here. You get +1 energy next turn. Okay, so now we want to play these, and it makes sense because they're skills. You probably want to play them before turn 6. That means that you want to play these on turn 5. You want to play the Prowler on turn 4, meaning you want to move a card on turn 3. What card do you want to move on turn 3 other than like Silk, potentially? Flight Harness, I have to imagine, is a move-related thing. Give your highest power card here +1 power and move it to the right. Interesting. Definitely a little bit of a puzzle with the Prowler, which we're always appreciative of, right? And some additional energy. Silk, if a card moved last turn, a card moved could mean your opponent's cards moved. It could mean you like played Silk with priority, but that's a little bit tricky actually to play this card on turn 3. What am I missing? Nightcrawler. Turn 1 Nightcrawler, turn 2 move it. Not usually what you're trying to do. Also, the Prowler checks if you moved a card when its on reveal activates. It's not going to then discount the cards later if you wind up moving a card on turn 5, for instance. Then like reducing the cost of the tools in your hand. It'll just be that one time when the Prowler on reveals, though of course there is potential to like activate this on reveal again in multiple ways. Set the cost to 0. Wouldn't really make sense to like try to use the skills to trigger something else. You do get 2 of the Thief's tools, so 2/3 of the time you're going to have access to that additional energy, and then 2/3 of the time you're also going to have access to move. I imagine just based off the other synergies that we're looking at, it's probably those are the best abilities. Though there's a chance you could appreciate the Affliction just because that represents the most amount of points, right? That's the only 4-pointed tool. Prowler is not speaking to me, for sure. I've listed a few synergies. It definitely is interesting because of the same ways that like Hawkeye Cape Bishop is interesting. There's just a lot of flexibility with it. Same way Merlin is interesting and powerful. Both of those cards are powerful. This is a 3-cost card, not a 2-cost card, and it's something you got to do additional work for. Now, you don't have to do the additional work. I should mention that. Like, you could just play this as a 3/4 that adds 2 tools to your hand, and I think that's mostly what this card is going to be, right? And then you're looking at a similar rate of Hawkeye Cape Bishop and Merlin, but potentially with like some lower impact cards that it's generating. So I really do think in order for the Prowler to work, you need to have moved a card last turn, which seems like a tough ask, and I don't think that the payoff is there for it, unfortunately. So moving on, I do not love the Prowler. This website also, and I'll have a link for this in the video description. Apologies that I did not mention that earlier, but it has like upcoming variants and all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of cool things that you can glean from the future of Marvel Snap on this website. But what I want to do now is go forward even further here and, I can't scroll. I guess I could probably scroll through this, but I'm just going to keep on scrolling. Can I zoom out here? Sure. We're going to go to December. And I'm going to see what other cards here are interesting to look at. Maybe I could, no, let's zoom in one more time. And I will go to December's card. So these have an even higher chance of getting changed by the time they are actually in the game. But I think that other creators are potentially reviewing these cards today, and so I want to, because the cards that we just looked at, I guess like I'm realizing how far behind the 8 ball I am typically, but this is just like a good first look, and I think that a lot of these cards will potentially, I think that the Spider Punk series or season cards are more likely to be locked in more or less at this point, but these I believe can definitely change, but I'm curious to see how all of that goes and if this will overwhelm my brain looking at cards that will be different by the time we actually see them. Do we see which is the season pass card? Looks like this is the season pass card, and it looks like there's some funky words going on. Let me read this. After one of your other cards is destroyed. I don't know if this is supposed to be a math problem. It can't be. It simply cannot be. I refuse to believe that. I mean, I don't know what this is asking. Okay, maybe I'm biting off a little bit more than I can chew here. After one of your other cards is destroyed, plus I have a feeling that this is like a placeholder value, that they're saying that this will like gain maybe +2, but they're not sure yet. And then it says after every, like, well, I guess you'd imagine this is third time because it's not going to be seconded or fourth third. So after every third time, improve this effect by 1. Okay. Modified card count 2 divided by modified card count. I don't know exactly what this is getting at, but it looks like it's saying after one of your other cards is destroyed, +1 power. After every third card, improve this effect by 1. So you destroy a card, it gets a power. You destroy a card, it gets a power. You destroy a card, it gets a power. And then you destroy a fourth card and it gets 2 power. Or something like that. And this number could be 2 and this number could be 2. That would probably make a lot more sense. Just because after one of your other cards is destroyed, +1 power doesn't feel that exciting. So yes. Maybe. I think we should look at the other cards and we should potentially come back to Weapon X at a later time because, yeah, that's a whole damn math problem there. Adamantium Infusion says, on reveal, revive your highest power destroyed card here with its power doubled. Ooh, wait a minute. That's just another Phoenix Force. Revive your highest power card, destroyed card here with its power doubled. That is just another Phoenix Force, and seems real good with like Kid Omega's ideas where you want to destroy cards with high power to begin with. That seems very, very good. That seems like a very, very good card. Chamber is a 2/3, activate. So I think this is where like you can't get too excited because Adamantium Infusion seems so good that I don't know if it will get printed with that number. And I got real excited. Like the one time I looked at a DATAMINE card was Isan. The original Isan looked really cool. Don't even remember what it was at this point. It was, I think it was every card in your deck had to have a different power. If every card in your deck had a different power, they all got +2 power, I think. But yeah, that wound up being too cool that they couldn't let us have it. Chamber says activate +2 power for each 5 cost or higher card you have here and in hand. Huh. Okay. Okay. +2 power. So, I mean, at like a 2/7, that's good. And you just have to play this at a point, or activate this at a point where it's going to be a 2/7. You take a look at the deck that we were just looking at, the Hydra Stomper deck. You could feasibly play this card in that deck even. It's not going to be synergistic with your other cards, but the deck is playing 2 5-cost cards, and like, how many 5-cost cards do you need to be playing for Chamber to be good? I like the fact that, like, for the first time, we have 5-cost matters as an ability. We have 6-cost matters. We have Frankie Ray Nova. We have a bunch of 1-cost. I don't know that we really have 2-cost matters, but like, 2 costs are great. So sure, I'll give it to them. Of course, we've got 3-cost matters. I believe we have 4-cost matters. Oh, it's Zabu. And now we have 5-cost matters. So that would be the whole set. Again, I kind of gleamed over 2-cost matters. I don't think we ever need to get that because 2-cost cards are already cool and good. They don't need additional benefits. But this 2-cost card, a 2/7, if you draw both of your 5-cost cards, if you don't, we're looking at a 2/5 still, like, most of the time. You probably, okay, so then there's like Arishem, but Arishem is too random, I think, to play this, to play and like to care necessarily about a 2/7 even. So I don't think that this is an Arishem card. I think that this is a cool card for like mid-range decks that want to run some amount of 5-cost cards, be that Enchantress or Cosmic Ghost Rider or Legion or Cannonball. Those are the big ones. Wild Child is a 2/1 ongoing, +4 power if you've discarded a card, +4 power if one of your cards has been destroyed. Oh, cool, cool, cool. So we've got a 2/5. I mean, it's ongoing, so there's other ways to synergize with this, but you don't want to be doing all of this stuff and be playing ongoing, probably. You've got a 2/5 if you can manage to do either of those effects, but where this is really shining is when you can manage to do both, and nothing is currently trying to do both, because Gambit does not destroy one of your own cards, it destroys one of your opponent's cards, so it would not work with this. But a 2/9 is big. A 2/9 is worth building around, even. A 2/9 is worth building around. Let's think about that for a second, because like Goliath really took ongoing from not seeing that much play to the best deck in the game for a period. So Wild Child isn't necessarily looking to do the same thing, and there's a cap too, which I don't think is a total prohibitor, but like, this is never going to get as big as Morbius can get in the decks that Morbius wants to play. So what wants to discard some cards and destroy some cards as well? Okay, I just had a weird idea. That's not worth it. It's not worth it to play Black Cat just to give this +4 power. But I wonder if there is similarly an easy way to destroy a card in a discard deck. That seems harder. It could be possible in Hela, but Hela is going bigger than this, so I don't think Hela cares about this. It feels like you'd look for a way to, and I'm kind of like, when I brought up Black Cat, before that I was briefly thinking of some type of like Morgan strategy, where, because Morgan also cares about both discarded and destroyed cards, but Moira specifically does not like Black Cat. So I don't know about Wild Child. It is definitely in need of a home. This kitty needs to find a home, but oh, if it isn't, a worthwhile payoff, I think. Yeah, I think it would have to be. Huh. I don't see it for now, but I'm very, very optimistic on Wild Child. Wade Wilson. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I mean, I realize that it's right next to an alternate version of Wolverine. Yeah, Wade Wilson's Deadpool. Okay, yeah, it is. Okay. When destroyed, it's a 2/2. When destroyed, replace this with a 1-cost card from your hand or deck with +1 power. Wow. Okay, it's the origin story. I love Bruce Banner and how that's implemented, and this is cool too. Wow. So interesting. And this works with both Deadpool and Headpool. Have to love that. It could also work with X-23, and I think you'd be totally fine with fetching X-23 out of your deck. In fact, the potential to build around X-23, and it thins your deck because you replace it. So I don't know what that means in terms of like Wade Wilson getting replaced. It could mean that then like you can't... this is awkward because like you can't... I don't know if you could use this with... Dormammu. I don't think so. With that word replace there. Maybe they would look to make that a little bit more enticing because Dormammu does need some friends. Dormammu isn't good with the cards that I just mentioned. This would be good with though, so your mileage may vary. It could replace itself with a card from your hand. That is a little bit of an issue. And then there's a trade-off with like this and with Airwalker. Oh, Airwalker's another 4-cost matters card, and this is another 1-cost matters card. There is a tricky aspect of these cards where like, do you want to play multiple 1-cost cards so that way you always have something to hit, or do you only want to play one so that way it's basically a tutor for the one effect that you want? I don't think that either of those are, like, I don't think there's a right answer to that question. And it's just going to come down to what the specific deck is looking for. Because you could play multiple 1-cost cards, and then you could play the 1-cost cards before destroying Wade, and then Wade will always fetch the card out of your deck. And that was the other thing I was going to say. Deck thinning. Deck thinning could be an important part of this. You could somehow just use this, especially right now. There's like a Moira X, what's it called? Victoria hand deck. Wade Wilson can just be used to fetch the Quinjet. That is like a cool angle of this. Quinjet, I think, is the best card to find off Hell's Kitchen usually. And using Wade Wilson to just have like an additional tutor for it out of your deck, and it can find Moira X sometimes, and it can find Headpool sometimes. Yeah, that seems like it could be interesting. And it's a 1-cost card, so it could grab skills as well. That is something you will have to watch out for. You will also have to watch out for Weapon H, a 7/14. When discarded, put this back with -2 cost. Oh, how fun. How fun. So not a Hela card. Definitely, potentially a Zombie Power Man card. Cool. Oh, this is a fun little game. Card that gets stopped by Mobius, rather. Yeah, that's obvious. I like the name badge on this as well, how it's got like the dog tag H, but I also love that it's just a big man with 14 power. Seems cool. If you can discard it once, you can play it on turn 5. 5/14. That's got to be what you're looking to do with this, more often than not. You could also discard it twice and then play it on turn 5 or turn 6 alongside other cards. That also feels like it's worthwhile. This seems like just a good card. This just seems cool. Discard has already been seeing a lot of play recently, but this looks like it's going to go into discard decks. Classic Apocalypse discard decks, of course, but it looks like it's going to be good in those decks. Lady Sif always hits this. That's pretty good. What else could you do with it? Lady Sif plus Blade on turn 4. Then you can play it for 3 on turn 5. All of that looks good. Maverick is a 3/3, an activate card, which says, give the next card you play power equal to this card's power. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I don't think have power that pumps up like this necessarily. Now, it's a 3-cost card, so immediately my mind goes to Silver Surfer type effects, which also appreciate a pump. I am thinking though, I mean, in addition to the fact that, like, yes, you can use your pump on this stuff like Forge, Agony, America Chavez, Surge, and then also send those pumps onto a Brood or a Silver Surfer or a Captain Carter. But, hear me out, you can pump up a Captain Carter, play Maverick behind the Captain Carter, then this is getting the pumps from Captain Carter and can send those pumps onto another card. Not bad. Not worth it. What I was going to say isn't worth it, but you could technically, on turn 6, already have Maverick in play Silver Surfer, activate Maverick, then flip over your final card, and it would get +5, but it would also get +5 if you simply activated Maverick, played the card, then played Silver Surfer. And that's more likely to be a more effective line because then Sebastian Shaw is getting 2 triggers on it, and Sebastian Shaw cares about number of triggers, not necessarily the total power given to him. But there's some interesting ideas there. It's new space, which is always good for activate cards, but this does not feel like a Jocasta card. There are other activate cards, though, that pump up power. You have Awesome Andy, you have Herbie, and so starting to throw those things around does get useful, and then you can use Maverick to pump up Danger. It's not the craziest idea in the world. I don't think it's immediately speaking to me, though. Next, we have the Fastball Special and Marrow, or Marrow, probably, right? Like Bone Marrow. I'm not sure if those are bones coming out, but that would make sense because there's like a bone theme with Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Because they're well, at least Wolverine, the bones were replaced with adamantium, right? But let's look at Fastball Special. Both of these are coming from limited time events, again, according to this data mine. Fastball Special says, on reveal, destroy your highest power card here. Wow, a skill that destroys. To afflict an enemy card here with that much negative power. Yeah, I mean, that... So it only destroys one card, but destroying one card can still be really good, especially destroying your highest power card, and then you're like bringing back that highest power card with the adamantium surgery, infusion. Yeah. And it's like another way to utilize all of that power and then use it again. Seems good. I think this is just good. Okay, Marrow says, when discarded or destroyed, which is text that we have not seen in a moment. A lot of recent discard or destroyed cards, pick one. But this is the text that, and people forget about it, but Wolverine and X-23 can both be either discarded or destroyed to come back. But Marrow says, randomly split -6 power among enemy cards. Not enemy cards here, just all enemy cards. I imagine you could double up if your opponent only has 3 cards in play. Then they could have some distribution of -6 total. And it could be that the -6 like completely avoids some cards and totally hits others. So, what was I just thinking this is a benefit for? Dormammu. Dormammu is looking for more cards that want to get destroyed to have an effect where that effect isn't I come back. You want things like Uncle Ben, and that's like the main one. That's been like the best one so far. Marrow is fine. It represents like a 2/6 if you can destroy it. The power on it does actually matter if the plan is to put that power onto Dormammu. Other than those things, I mean, I really don't think that this is something that you're going to want to be doing. This is just a limited time event card. But I mean, like throughout this video, I have mentioned both Lasher and Agony, right? Those cards were like sleepers, but did eventually come out in big ways from limited time events. So maybe Morrow could be a similar sleeper that eventually comes to fruition. And we are coming to a close here on this video. 2 more cards, and then I do think that into seasons beyond this, it gets a little bit too I jumped ahead here a little bit just to take a look at like oh no, this is the December. I want to take a look at like the January card. Yeah, Kid Omega, and these cards don't even have text on them. So this will be nearing the end of the video now, but there are 2 more cards that I wanted to look at real quick. And that is going to be, did we look at Maverick? Yes, we did. And then we saw Aurora, a 6/5. Give one of your other on-reveal cards at each location +2 power. Okay, this is a like Spectrum, Odin type of card. I guess maybe it's like potentially even related to Spectrum, but let's see what she does. Give one of your other on-reveal cards at each location +2 power, but repeat for ongoing, activate, and end of turn. Whoa. At each location. Now, here's one very interesting aspect of this. I think I know the answer, that Wong, nothing has cared previously about on-reveal cards. There are cards that care about ongoing in the same way, and there are cards that care about end of turn in the same way. Being, well, there's a lot for ongoing. There's Spectrum, there's original Captain America, there's Goliath, and then for end of turn, there's Fantasticar. But my question is like Wong. Wong is technically, by the search in the game, both in on-reveal and in ongoing. Fantasticar is both an activate and an end of turn. I don't think cards get to play both sides unless, of course, they have both of those abilities, something like Electro. And the stones. Oh my gosh, the stones. Whoa. Oh no. Okay, Aurora's busted. Yeah, she gets to give multiple of the Thanos stones +4 power. Just that alone is busted beyond belief. You can find other things to do with this. You don't need to. Just that alone is really, 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 really good. Wow. Okay. It's not gonna work like that. It's not gonna work like that. That is ridiculous. We are gonna have another Thanos winter. Yeah, I don't think so. And they cannot release this right before Christmas, and then everyone's Christmas is ruined from Aurora. No way that is happening. We're gonna finish off this video with Phantom X, a 4/6 activate. If you've had cards discarded and destroyed, another effect that cares about both. Once you have multiple things like this, then it starts to look like it might be worth the squeeze. Let's see what you get from this. Afflict front row enemy cards at each location with -2 power. So, if you can destroy, and it says cards, but you just need to destroy one card and discard one card, a total of 2 different things. This represents a 4/14 because you could sap -2 power from 2 cards at each location. A 4/14 is pretty big. Huh. Now you might want to start thinking about that puzzle. And what is the easiest way to discard a card? Just play a black cat. Awkwardly, if you draw a black cat on the final turn, it won't work. So you might want some other amount of discard. But a 4/14, huh? Oh, that's tricky. I gotta go back up and look and see what the other card was that cared about doing both of those things. It is... Was it not from this season? I know this card you could do either of the things too. Was it from this season? Oh, it was, wasn't it? It was a lady. It wasn't Prowler. Wait, what was it? What allowed you to... It said, like, if you destroy and discard a card... No. Okay, it wasn't any of those. I'm just missing it here. Oh, it's Wild Child. Oh, it's Wild Child. It's a 2/9. A 2/9. Awkwardly, you can't play your 2/9 and your 4/14 on the final turn because the 4/14 has Activate. But I do think that a 4/14 and a 2/9... Those are both really solid numbers. You have to start to think about what are the cheapest, and when I say cheapest, I mean lowest cost to deck building, most compact ways to both discard and destroy. You've got to do both of them. Then you're going to play Phantom X and you're going to play Wild Child. And then the rest of the deck probably wants to have as much tech as possible. You don't want to commit too much to either discarding or destroying, since you can't go full in one direction. I mean, the other way would be to play both of these, but the benefit of Phantom X and Wild Child is that they are a lot of power in a tiny package. So how you would, I think, want to build a deck around that is committing the least amount of your deck slots to activating them, or, you know, satisfying their abilities, and then also just being able to cram in as much tech as you possibly could on top of that. I'm not sure. This video's already been pretty long for me, covering a lot. I think that the next time I do this video and future season reviews will certainly be shorter, since I have already looked at a bunch of those cards today. And there's a bunch more stuff to uncover in this data mine. You can check out the link to all of these things that I've looked at in this video on snapfan.com, I believe. Is it snapfan.com or is it snap.fan? Snap.fan, and you can find out a whole bunch of other sweet Marvel Snap stuffs there. But for today, that is going to be it for me. I will also mention, and I probably just did a community post about this, but I am now doing regular giveaways for both PAX bundles and season passes. In order to enter into those, you have to leave a comment on my videos and include the word snap. And this one, I keyed it up for you. Keyed it up, queued it up, teed it off. Luxurious Florida retreat. I've teed it up for you here. Is that T-ball or is that a golf tee? When you say teed it up, which one are you talking about? Anyways, leave the word snap in your comment. You can talk about Snap Fan if you'd like, but you need to include the word snap. That way, when I do a little search, I see those comments pop up, because since I also cover other games, it's a little bit tricky for me to manage the giveaways from just the snap comment specifically. So I need that keyword if you want to enter for a season pass or /and PAX bundles. But for today, that is going to be it for me. Thank you. And it's not only this current season pass. You're not only entering to win Scarlet Witch, you are also potentially entering to win Spider-Punk, which I also don't think is that great. But still, that is going to be it for me today. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.